Hello everyone, my name is Griff, and today we're going to be going over the Elementary Escapades event. This is an onslaught event that features Rascal Ronzel, Little Luis, and Humanoid Mercury. I have just completed all the event, I've read all the story, and I just was going to play this on auto or whatever, just to talk about how I feel about this event. For starters, this event uses fire and water adventures, and usually when that happens, we get the tomes of those specific elements, and in this case it's true. We're going to be getting fire and water tomes. Pretty normal for, like, an event as a whole, but it does tell us who probably will be summonable, because Young Ronzel, or Rascal Ronzel, and Humanoid Mercury are focused on in the art for the event. So I would assume Mercury would be water and Ronzel would be fire. Pretty interesting that we'd get a fire type Ronzel, but not completely unexpected. The real highlight of this event, though, for me personally, has to be the story. In the story, they make it very like humorous and fourth wall breaking, like a bunch of times, and they also like go very over the top with the humor in a way that I don't think DL has in a while. I think one of the last times that they did this was the summer onslaught event, but it's just quite humorous to see these characters in this situation. Like, yeah, so basically, I'm not going to spoil the event, but just to go over it pretty basically, Ronzel and Luis turn into younger versions of themselves, which is pretty funny, and like, just as is. But we don't really get an explanation of why until the event starts. And the reason that they do is because Sanoa blows them up, and she figured out that by blowing people up in a certain way, it turns them younger. And she did this by blowing up Pipple. And you get a flashback of her bombing Pipple, and Pipple, like, turning into a young Sprout off screen, and every character is like, what's going on? And then she talks about how, you know, they can't know who's going to turn into a young person when they bomb them. So they all end up getting bombed by Sanoa, and it's Ronzel and Luis who get it, and Ronzel's like, I didn't think it would be me because of the fan service. And it's kind of just those funny fourth wall breaks that are so left field that I just wasn't expecting at all. And to see them in DL in this manner is so funny to me. So I really do like this event. I like the characters a lot. There's a lot of great moments with all three of them. Ronzel is really still himself, and Luis kind of points out about how he still is acting like a child, even though, you know, he's supposed to be acting like himself, but he's really just acting like a child, and he really is a child at heart. And Luis talks about how, like, she's overprotective, and it actually gains the affection of another classmate named Ryu, and there's a bit of a rivalry between Ryu and Ronzel. And then there's also Humanoid Mercury, who's posing as a teacher, and she kind of has this, like, intimidating motherly figure authority over Emile. And there are multiple times where she literally scares Emile half to death just by staring at him. So, all in all, a really exciting event. I was already planning on summoning on this banner because Humanoid Mercury is one of my most wanted characters in the game. As I said before, I'm working on a video for my top 10 NPCs I wanted turns into characters, like as adventures, and one of the slots is going to be dedicated to all the High Dragons by themselves. But to have Humanoid Mercury basically guaranteed to be summonable, since it is a water and flame event, and she obviously would be a water unit, and she obviously has she has a dagger in her unit art. It's super, like, it's just really exciting for me to be able to see it, and that's actually why I put Mim on this team, is kind of like in a place of Mercury, because I felt like that was fitting. Pipple's on the team because Pipple was in the event, sort of. Tiki's on the team because she's another water dragon, and then Yun's on the team for adventure XP and stuff, and he's also flame, so that works perfectly. I don't lose out on any glory. I believe we have one more left. But all in all, I really liked this event. I really thought this event was super funny, and I really like what they're doing with the sort of nature of these events. As we've gotten more and more of these events, some of them tell serious stories, like Ladina and Linnea's United Front, but all of them are, it's like a super version of a castle story, or a super version of a character story, where you get these hyper fixated kind of one-offs. And in this case, they really brought humor with it, and they really pushed the boundaries of what you can do with a story in Dragalia. Even at the end of the event on the end screen, Mercury comes off from right screen and says, and they all lived happily ever after, and then everyone screams, no, they didn't. Like, those kinds of little things, I just adore it. I want to gush about this event so much because I was really looking forward to this event because I really like Ronzo and Luisa's characters. Obviously, I like Luisa as a character. My favorite character is her younger brother, and then Ronzo's one of my favorite story characters, and then to also have Humanoid Mercury and Emile, who are two of my other favorite characters, all be in this event. It's just it's one of my favorite events that we've had in this game, and it makes me really happy that they put so much attention to detail into it. But as with other events, the rewards for this event are less. So if we go and look at the endeavors, we're going to see that, we're getting like 10 Wormite per. It's a little unfortunate and it's a little upsetting, but in all honesty, it's fine because we do get a ticket every day. We get Wormite every day. For Trials of the Mighty, we get another 125. So right here, we have 85 per day. Not too bad for this first week of the month, or the second week of the month, sorry. And then next week, we should have a proper event or some sort of rerun. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Maybe it was the rerun of the Wukong event. But all in all, I'm really happy and pleased with this event. As far as castle stories, there is a new castle story about the most recent Wormprint we got, which is pretty cool to see. I like when they sort of introduce characters being friends or having some sort of background through Wormprint art or through mention in Wormprint story, and then we get a fully fleshed out event later. And in the treasure trade, we do have 2 stickers. We have That All You Got with Young Ronzo, which I'm going to trade for right now, and a Humanoid Mercury sticker, which says, the game is on. Very cute. I like both of those stickers. I want to trade for them on screen, because why not? All in all, though, I am very impressed with this event, as I've said multiple times. It makes me really happy that they're doing these types of events. And they actually opened the door to have more of them. At the very end of this event, Sonoa says, who am I going to turn into a child next time? So we could see more child alt versions of characters. What I'd really like to see is maybe a young Emile or a young Yuden, because there is actually currently, if we go to the notice screen, there is a login event, and it actually has young Emile and young Yuden on the screen. And I believe this is from the Frostbite Punisher print. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it is. But each day you log in this week, which is each day of the event, you get some rewards, including 400 Wormite and a bunch of rupees and rainbow orbs, and ending it off with Champion Testament. Super good, super beneficial. And additionally, the other thing that dropped today was the epilogue for the Dawn Dragalia raid event. So if you're all for Elementary Escapades and you haven't finished the Dragalia raid event, you can stop watching now. Thank you for watching. I'm just going to spend the last few minutes going over that event epilogue. Alright, so in that epilogue, it doesn't really absolve the current story. It does, because Elysium ends up flying away and he basically stops, playing around with Alberius. But what we find out is that Mine and Midgard Stormer Zero actually changed the Pack Stone with Elysium's, and essentially the sword Dragalia is Midgard Stormer's Pack Stone and not Elysium's. And because of that, Alberius is able to use the sword to basically damage Elysium, which is super cool. It's a super cool workaround way, and it also brings back Midgard Stormer Zero, which has been a big focus of just Midgard in general, as you can see on the screen, is a big focus of this event, and they actually tie him back into his original form. I believe it's his original form. It's the one from 700 years ago, when in the time of Ilia. When this happens, Elysium basically is like, I can't believe you do this. He heals up the wound, but he ends up stopping attacking Alberius because he realizes Alberius just wants to stop the other. And he mentions about how every 700 years or so, there should be a hero in the land, and he wants Alberius to make sure that they have this hero. So then Miriam goes back to the church, and she resolves the issues with the church, and you see this transition to the dragons flying away, and Alberius coming in with Midgard Stormer Zero to fight the fiends that are in the city, and they end up actually pack binding, and you see the Pack Stone. I don't think it was the Dawn Shard, but it was just a normal Pack Stone. And then you see High Midgard Stormer. with Alberius, and that's the first shapeshift into a dragon. So it's pretty cool that we got to see that, and people spectating are like, wow, this is really cool. This is what people are going to be able to do. Once all that happens, it kind of jumps to part of the story where we see Alberius in the story and him fighting Morsiati in the future. And it mentions that Alberius breaks the Sword of Dragalia to seal Midgardsormr away. So I guess that's their canon reason for why we didn't get it as a skin, why he doesn't have it in his art, because it is sealed. Even though this is Alberius from the past, it is still, the sword is still sealed, so there is some explanation there. I don't know if I love that explanation, but there is some explanation there. When that happens, they actually jump to the Fairy Kingdom, and part of the sword, from my understanding, falls into the Fairy Kingdom. And they realize, and they're like, this sword is filled with bad malice, and we need to get rid of it. Or maybe we could use it. And the Fairy King's like, we need to save this and store it away so that we could use it if we need it. So they are setting up that the Fairy Kingdom would have either a piece of Morsiati, or have some sort of connection to him from a past. So it's interesting to see if maybe the end of this story will actually bring back the Sword of Dragalia, and when that happens, you know, the game's called Dragalia Lost, and the sword's called Dragalia. So maybe the end quest is actually finding the Sword Dragalia, and then forming it together, and maybe we'll see this fight between Nedrick and Bahamut and Elysium. Could be. It's interesting to see. It's also interesting to talk about how Chthonius in his story talks about a great dragon king that possessed power higher than Elysium, but that dragon passed away. So maybe we could see some connection to that, because Elysium is one of the Great Worms, even though he's really not treated as much anymore. But, you know, we are starting to see him come back into the limelight. So this had a really good end to the story, and I'm really impressed with what they were able to do with it. But all in all, that's going to be it for today. I'm super impressed by both these stories. Expect a video coming up on the new Trials of the Mighty, and in that video I'm going to go over Gala Elisande's Mana Spiral, because I haven't done that in video form yet. Just to say right off the bat, it's alright. We'll talk more about this, but this Holy Accord effect is probably the most interesting part of her kit. So I'll have a video on that, and then as soon as we get a banner preview for whatever banner goes along with this event, which should be on the 15th, or the 14th actually, I will cover that. So look forward to that, but thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.